Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a fascinating look at Ray Bradbury's absolute masterpiece, Fahrenheit 451. We're going to unpack this classic text by tracking our main guy, Guy Montag, on what is honestly an agonizing, thrilling, and completely necessary journey. We'll follow him from a state of blind, unquestioning obedience right up to the radical dawn of his own independent thought. So whether you've known the story for years or you're just looking to understand its mechanics, we're going to break down exactly how Bradbury constructs this epic clash between the individual and society. Let's get right into it. It was a pleasure to burn. Boom. What a striking opening line, right? It's short, it's punchy, and it instantly establishes Montag's absolute, unwavering conformity to his dystopian society. You know, as readers, we instinctively associate burning with destruction, with loss and devastation. But for Montag, at the very beginning of our story, it's a joy. He doesn't just do his job as a fireman, which, by the way, in this world means starting fires, not putting them out. He genuinely loves it. He embraces it without a single second guess. The jarring psychological contrast here is just fascinating. Society has manipulated Montag so completely, so thoroughly, that he actually believes destroying knowledge is a deeply positive, pleasurable act. Bradbury even describes fire for Montag as a special pleasure. I mean, this is the ultimate victory of state propaganda, right? It's what happens when citizens stop questioning authority to the point where they gleefully participate in their own intellectual suppression. At this stage, Montag experiences absolutely zero internal conflict. He is, for all intents and purposes, the perfectly obedient citizen. But as we know, perfection in a dystopia is incredibly fragile. All it takes is one tiny crack. Enter Clarice McClellan and her incredibly simple, almost innocent question, "Are you happy?" Just 3 little words, yet this acts as the ultimate catalyst for the entire narrative. It completely shatters Montag's carefully constructed, unquestioning worldview and forces him to abruptly confront all these suppressed emotions he didn't even know he had. It's literally the spark that lights the fuse of his intellectual rebellion. Clarice basically represents everything society has deliberately thrown away. On one side, Montag's everyday world is dominated by these shallow conversations and a barrage of constant, deafening entertainment. But on the flip side, Clarice represents imagination, a deep connection to the natural world, and, well, genuine human interaction. She actually looks at things. She actually listens. Her curiosity is so starkly different from the norm that the simple act of asking questions effectively becomes an act of high treason. She plants that seed of doubt. And man, once it's planted, Montag's conflict with his society really starts to grow. And that doubt, it gets rapidly accelerated by the absolute horror of his own domestic life. When Montag's wife, Mildred, overdoses on sleeping pills, the emotional emptiness of their world is just laid bare. She isn't saved by caring doctors. Instead, she's pumped out by these anonymous, cigarette-smoking technicians using a machine Bradbury chillingly calls a black cobra. It's incredible snake imagery, evoking real danger and venom. The technicians treat this literal life-or-death moment as totally routine, just moving from one patient to the next with mechanical efficiency. It perfectly and terrifyingly symbolizes how technological progress actually becomes harmful when it's used to replace human empathy and suppress emotional pain. Then we hit the massive structural turning point of the narrative. Montag watches a woman make an unthinkable choice. She chooses to burn alive alongside her books, rather than abandon them. And this just shatters him. He reflects on it, realizing that there has to be something profound hidden within those pages to make someone do that. Notice how he uses the word something. He can't even articulate what it is yet, but he has this gut-level, instinctive realization that ideas possess immense, undeniable power. A power strong enough to inspire unimaginable courage. At this point, his internal conflict officially transforms into active, outward opposition. Desperate for answers, Montag seeks out a mentor, a former English professor named Faber. And Faber drops this absolutely crucial piece of wisdom. He tells Montag, look, the physical paper, the glue, the binding, they aren't magical. The real magic isn't what the books contain. It's the diverse perspectives, the texture of life, the uncomfortable truths, and the deep reflections. Books are really just one receptacle for human knowledge and meaning. Faber then lays out exactly what society has lost, giving Montag, and honestly, giving us as the reader, a clear 3-step roadmap to intellectual independence. First up, you need quality information, the detailed, textured truths of life. Second, you need the leisure and silence to actually think about that information, far away from all those screaming televisions. And third, you need the freedom to act on what you've learned from those first two steps. It's just a brilliant, highly logical breakdown of exactly what a healthy human mind requires to function. So, the crucial takeaway here is redefining how we understand censorship. Our source material makes it super clear that Bradbury is warning us about something far more insidious than just state-sponsored bonfires. True censorship in this dystopian world isn't just about destroying paper, it's about flooding the population with constant entertainment, superficial media, and endless distraction. Because think about it, if you keep people perpetually amused and moving at breakneck speed, they simply won't have the time or the mental capacity to think critically. Endless distraction is just as effective a tool for suppression as outright destruction. Now, of course, the state isn't just relying on distraction. There's always the looming threat of violence. Bradbury really dials up the tension using the mechanical hound. This robotic, eight-legged terror seems to almost instinctively recognize Montag's growing doubts, way before his human colleagues ever do. It serves as this brilliant piece of foreshadowing. The hound symbolizes the violent, completely unavoidable state response waiting for anyone who dares to step out of line. It shows us that authoritarian regimes ultimately have to rely on surveillance, fear, and intimidation to maintain their tight grip on conformity. To make sure the reader actually feels this terrifying internal conflict, Bradbury does something really clever with the narrative stance. The book is written in the third person, but we are locked tightly into Montag's perspective. And as Montag's certainty vanishes, the writing itself actually changes. It becomes increasingly fragmented. Bradbury uses rhetorical questions, running sentences, and unfinished thoughts to literally mirror Montag's panic and emotional turmoil. You aren't just reading about his intellectual awakening, you are being dragged right into the agonizing, disorienting emotional difficulty of rejecting a lifetime of core beliefs. The very structure of the novel perfectly tracks this evolution too. Bradbury breaks the story down into three distinct phases that really anchor Montag's progression. We kick off with Part 1, The Hearth and the Salamander, which establishes his role as a loyal fireman steeped in the symbols of his oppressive profession. Then we move into Part 2, The Sieve and the Sand, representing his desperate, super frustrating attempt to retain knowledge as society tries to wash it all away. Finally, we hit Part 3, Burning Bright, where his old life is completely destroyed, paving the way for his rebirth as a truly independent thinker. This whole structural journey brings us to the climax, Montag's explosive confrontation with Captain Beatty. Now, Beatty's is perhaps the most fascinating character in the entire text. He's a walking, talking contradiction. He's this authoritarian enforcer who uses extensive, brilliant literary quotes to argue that literature is useless and must be destroyed. It's wild, right? But it perfectly represents the overarching hypocrisy of the government. They deeply understand the power of knowledge, which is exactly why they weaponize it for themselves, while actively denying it to the public. By the end of this incredible journey, the central symbol of fire comes completely full circle. Where we started, fire was just this blunt tool of destruction, violence, and totalitarian government control. But after Montag escapes the city, he finds Granger and the exiled intellectuals gathered around a campfire. And here, fire provides warmth, comfort, and companionship. It proves Bradbury's deeply optimistic point. Powerful forces, tools, and technologies, they aren't inherently evil. Their value depends entirely on how humanity chooses to use them. Summarizing the analysis from our source text, it's honestly amazing to see exactly how Bradbury builds this masterpiece. It's a perfectly interlocking system. He uses brilliant characterization with Clarisse and Beatty. He uses potent symbolism with the mechanical hound and the changing nature of fire. He masterfully employs foreshadowing, a tight, fragmented narrative stance that puts us right inside Montag's head, and a three-part structure that seamlessly guides the evolution. All of these literary techniques are woven together to build a truly compelling story about the absolute necessity of valuing knowledge over blind, comfortable conformity. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought derived directly from the source material. It's a timeless warning that feels, honestly, more relevant today than ever. Look at your own screens. Look at your own feeds. Are we allowing endless distraction, superficial media, and constant entertainment to suppress our own critical thought? Are we willingly handing over the very qualities that make us human just to stay comfortable? It's definitely something we all need to deeply ponder regarding our own modern relationship with technology and truth. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep asking questions.